Okay.
All right, there we go.
Wholeness Kulam to everybody. Shavua told to some. I want to start about the concept of language and the significance of it and how vital it is and the necessity of us understanding it. Maybe if those that's looking on, they can see this book I'm going to start with. It's called Biocentrism. And Biocentrism is a book written by a physicist and a doctor by the name of Robert Lanza. He's a brother. He's at Wake Forest University. And what he explains about language is quite interesting. And I want to kind of give us a little background about him. He says, biocentrism, how life and consciousness are the keys to understand the true nature of the universe. And in his introduction, he lays out what he's saying. He said, introduction, he said, this book proposes a new perspective that our current theories of a physical world don't work and can never be made to work until they account for life and consciousness. This book proposes that rather than a belated and minor outcome after billions of years of lifeless physical processes, life and consciousness are absolutely fundamental to our understanding of the universe. We call this new perspective biocentrism. And I'm going to give you the definition of biocentrism in a moment. You see, in this view, life is not an accidental byproduct of the laws of physics, nor is the nature of history of the universe the dreary play of billiard balls that we've been taught since grade school. Through the eyes of a biologist and an astronomer, we will unlock the cage in which Western science has unwittingly managed to confine itself. 21st century, the 21st century is predicted to be the century of biology, a shift from the previous century dominated by physics. It seems fitting then to begin the century by turning the universe outside in and unifying the foundations of science, not with imaginary strings that occupy equally imaginary unseen dimensions, but with a much simpler idea that is rife with so many shocking new perspectives that we are unlikely ever to see reality the same way again. And I'm saying this because reality that we, think we understand is not really reality. It's as Eitai been telling us about this simulated reality. But nevertheless, continuing on, biocentrism may seem like a radical departure from our current understanding, and it is. But the hints have appeared all around us for decades. Some of the conclusions of biocentrism may resonate with aspects of Eastern religions or certain New Age philosophies. This is intriguing, but rest assured there's nothing New Age about this book. The conclusion of biocentrism are based on mainstream science and is a logical extension of the work of some of our great scientific minds. Biocentrism cements the groundwork for new lines of investigation in physics and cosmology. This book will lay out the principle of biocentrism. All of us, all of which are built on established science, all which demands a rethinking of our current theories of the physical universe. And then I'm going to give you the definition of biocentrism. It means centered in life, having life as its principal fact. Last point. This is on page 37. He says, if that before us is consciousness, it can change the area of science, focus from the nature of a cold, inert, external universe to issues such as how your consciousness relates to mine and to that of the animals. But we'll put aside for the moment questions of unity of consciousness. Now, this is very key here. It says, but we will put aside for the moment questions of the unity of consciousness. Let it suffice to say that any overarching unity of consciousness, let me read again, let it suffice to say that any overarching unity of consciousness is not just difficult or impossible to prove, but it's fundamentally incompatible with dualistic languages, which adds an additional burden of making it difficult to grasp with logic alone. And these are the problems that we have been having, trying to deal with dualistic language and trying to understand wholeness and unity with logic. So he says, why? He said, language was created to work exclusively through symbolisms and to divide nature into parts and action. I'm going to go back and just pick up one point. When we use the word overarching unity of consciousness, we're talking about dominating or embracing all else. That's what overarching means. Dominating or embracing all else. So when you talk about unity of consciousness, you're talking about, dominating and connecting all things together. That's difficult for us to come into that understanding because language purpose is to divide things into parts and action. So when we start talking about how things act and why this happened, we didn't get bogged down in dualistic language, whether we know it or not. And it makes it almost impossible, you understand, to really understand. And I think that's what Eitai been constantly saying to us, trying to logically make this make sense. It becomes very problematic. So I just wanted to kind of lay that in place because I don't know exactly, the direction that we're going this evening, but symbolism and language.
I'm just sitting here now, shaking my head. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Go ahead.
That's where we are. So you can go ahead, Eitai.
Okay. It's really uncanny how these things occur, but it just goes to prove the point that Nasi made, the general point in terms of this unity of consciousness. And I wrote it down because what I wanted to talk to you about today, and Nasi said he didn't know what direction we was going, but he knows exactly the direction we're going. And this is just proving a point that I want to make and I want to demonstrate today that we are all connected. We are soul brothers and soul sisters. We are all connected and unified by this thing called the soul. And we talk about it in terms of biochemistry and in terms of melanin. But melanin, again, is just the soul. All right. It's just the soul. So we want to put it in practical terms, very practical terms. And again, the subject that I wanted to talk about and to provide proof of this unity of consciousness that Nasik talked about, which is the underlying, or as he said it, overarching true nature of the universe. This is the overarching or underlying true nature of this universe. And when he had started talking, and you know, I just shook my head, I grabbed my pen, and I started to write because, again, this is what we want to talk about. And you'll see I have two scriptures here that I added to the notes. Everybody will be getting this, by the way, because this is just so important. And what I wanted to talk on today again was this true nature, the true nature of the universe. And the true nature of the universe is that everything is unified, that everything is unified, and that we are unified in consciousness. We are also unified in experience within the so-called material or earth plane, physical plane. And once we comprehend this, Nasi, the true nature of the universe will begin to reveal itself in our consciousness, in our intellect, in our emotions, in our total being here. But it is difficult, as you pointed out, to comprehend sometimes because we've been relegated due to our upbringing and our thinking, our thought process, the development of this mind. We've been relegated to a mental only or uh, intellectual only uh, conceptualization of things. And for the vast majority of Black people, we've fallen even lower to a submental existence, a submental existence, where, and what I mean by that, Nasi, is submental puts us in the realm of mind and logic and
Right,
reasoning and ra-
right,
and rational. And
right.
we must understand we're not controlling the mind, but the mind is controlling us.
Absolutely right.
That is a submental position. So what Nasik is saying that what is required, and anytime you're into logic and rationale and reasoning, it is a dualistic existence. So everything is viewed from an imbalanced position, one position or the other.
Right.
Christian versus Muslim, liberal versus conservative, black versus white. It goes on and on.
On and
And
on. Right.
it is an extremely volatile atmosphere and state of mind. And what unity does is calms all of that down. And it is Nasi, it is symbolized in the scriptures. Once we come to a unified consciousness, or a unity in consciousness, it is the Shabbat rest. It is the Shabbat rest. So all of the noise and all of the activity that is created by the interplay of what? Polar opposites ceases. And
Right.
you unify the duality into what? One thing.
One thing.
That
Right.
is the true nature of reality. That is
Right.
the true nature of reality. And what I want to show and demonstrate today, that we have always had that capacity and that capability through something that is called a soul. All right? Through something that is called a soul, which is dark matter energy. All right? That is the way that we talk about it in biology and physics and scientific terms. But we want to talk about the energetic nature of things. Because once we get to the energetic nature of things, Nasi, we bypass language.
Right. Right.
We bypass language. And the one thing that we always say when we say something and we want somebody to understand us, we ask, do you feel what I'm saying? What that is admitting,
Mhm.
Nasi, is the limitation of language.
Right.
That although we're forced to use it as a medium, what we really want to do is connect with one another in that field of a unified consciousness.
Yeah.
All right. So
Clear.
we express ourselves through language, but we're always saying what? Do you feel what I mean?
Right.
I might not, I'm having difficulty explaining energetic and spiritual things by using the language, by using the bridge of language. Everybody with me?
You feel me?
Crystal clear.
Correct. Absolutely. So I want to give an example to us, proof that we've always had this ability, even in our unconscious state, even in the mental state, even in the submental state, that these things are always with us. But they were what? Concealed for a while. In Proverbs 25 and 2, we have featured here, it is the glory of God to what? Conceal a thing. But the honor of kings is to search out a matter. By virtue of the individuals that are on this call that have made it a priority to come within this format, we know that we are distinguishing ourselves in a class of consciousness that is referred to as kings and queens. We're going to explain all of this. And what we're searching out, again, is the true nature of reality. We have awakened to each individually, we have awakened to some things that are inconsistent with what we've been taught about this so called reality, what is real. And we are in the process of what? Searching out that which has been concealed. Everybody with me?
Clear.
All right, here we go. The next step and the next statement is that enlightenment refers to the full comprehension of a situation. So, what are we trying to comprehend? Our situation within this what? Simulated reality. We want full comprehension of it. We want to be enlightened in terms of the true nature of this reality. So, we're talking about this class, these classes of consciousness, Nasi, that are broken down or that reflect or were reflected in the rudimentary or elementary expressions of what's called society or civilization. All right.
Gotcha.
So we're going to see that these classifications are actually classifications of consciousness. And they break down basically into 4 classifications. The highest is what is called the Brahmin in the Hindu class, but or in the Hindu caste system. But we should, as Hebrews, relate that to the allegorical father of the Hebrew belief system, which was what? Abraham. See,
Right.
Brahman,
Right. Right.
Abraham. All right.
Right.
So, allegorically, Abraham was the father of the system. So, it's just talking about that this Brahmin class is the top representation of consciousness. And here it relates to individuals that become priests and scholars, teaching priests and scholars. You all with me?
Mm-hmm.
The second class are the rulers and warriors. Now, you can be a warrior priest. You can be a warrior scholar. You can be a king priest. Remember, the scripture said that we will become what? A nation of kings and priests. That was
Yeah.
just
Right.
that was just talking about now. That was just talking about the fact that we have the possibility to what? Elevate in consciousness.
Right.
We're not talking about a social system like that. The social system does not determine whether you're a priest or a scholar or a king or a ruler. Your consciousness level determines it. Everybody with me?
Yeah.
All right. So it's always the energetic and the spiritual first that accounts for the societal, the cultural stratification. It is all based on the energetic aspects of consciousness and where you fall in terms of your level of vibrational frequency and or level of consciousness. Clear?
Right.
So top level being the Brahmin, the priests or scholars, the second level being the rulers and the warriors, the third level being merchants, traders, and artisans, individuals that are skilled with their hands like that, or with institutions and the fundamentals of institutional building. Now, we must understand that the level that we have to understand this from the level of how this originally was, because we're far from it now and we're trying to duplicate these things with institutions and belief systems. However, we don't understand basically that it is the energetic that is the most important. All right. In the past, and in the distant past, we were able to develop individuals before they even were conceived of. I'm talking about physically. We were able to look and say, well, we need priests, we need scholars, we need merchants, and individuals. We could work this energy to the point where when a man and woman got together, they knew that they were having a priest. Are you with me?
Yeah.
They knew
Yeah.
that they were having a king. They knew that they were having a warrior or a scholar. You all with me?
Yeah.
It was not left up to not see these billiard balls just rolling around on the table
Right.
to random chance. But now, since we've fallen, since we've disconnected from this knowledge, it is all random. You all with me?
Mm-hmm.
Eitai,
Cain.
perfect is what you just saying. I know you may even come to it. Jeremiah, the first chapter, verses 4 and 5, demonstrate exactly what you just said.
Cain, go ahead.
It says, then the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, before I formed thee in the belly,
That's
I
it.
knew thee.
That's
And
right.
before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations.
Uh-huh. That's it, now see.
Jeremiah 1, 4 and 5.
So as we as the true nature of this reality reveals itself to us, we're going to find these correspondences in the scriptures. You all with me?
Yeah.
So again, perfect example now, see, that these things were determined beforehand. Not so now. We have to kind of scramble to get to our consciousness level. Then we find our purpose. All right.
Right.
And no one
Right.
else can determine that for you, not even the particular social or cultural system that you've developed. Because again, these things were not developed from an energetic standpoint. It might have been some spiritual insight, but again, you're gonna find you're gonna have some people that are in the wrong positions. You're gonna have farmers trying to be rulers, and rulers trying to be farmers, merchants trying to be priests. You are with me?
Mm-hmm.
And we scramble around to try to find some to try to find some order. Uh, and this is the position that we find ourselves in now. So we're going to notice that there are four basic systems. And these four basic systems, Nasi, they correspond to Yud Hey Vav Hey. They correspond to earth, fire, wind, water. You with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
That these are the things that comprise everything. So again, we have to syncretize these things. And this is what we're going to do today. And this is going to be kind of fun too, because we're going to show you something that everyone is familiar with and that we really took, you know, that we took for granted. But these individuals that were placed among us were teaching us about this basic science of the unity of consciousness.
Hmm.
So these four things correspond to earth, water, wind, fire. We won't go into that. We'll do that later. They also correspond to four levels of consciousness. That is that is uh, symbolized in this word pardes, pardes. And you can see it in these symbols that are alongside. Now, understand, I couldn't flip them upside down, but they're supposed to be from the bottom up. It's supposed to be Pashat. You see with the red pay, it's supposed to be on the bottom. Remez, representing the Vaisha, uh, Daresh, representing the Chetri or the Kshatriya level, the orange level, and then finally Sod, representing the Brahmin or the top level. You all understand what I'm talking about? I couldn't flip. I would flip it up like this, but you wouldn't be able to read it.
Right, I got you.
That's how it's supposed to be. So when we hear when we hear the term now, bottoms up, or like what the brother said, that
Outside in.
it's inside out or upside
Right,
down. Now we understand what it's talking about. That the head must become what? The
Tail.
tail must become the head.
right.
You are with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So this term we were given, our ancestors gave us, was the term pardes, that would represent these four elements. And it refers to the types of approaches to biblical exegesis in rabbinic Judaism, or the interpretation of text in the Torah study. All that means is this is the way. There are four ways to interpret scripture: on a very base or simple level, and then on an esoteric level. What we've been doing in our study is we've been at the very top level. We've been taking it from the simple Bible story or literal understanding to what is hidden below the text of language. Now, see, so this is how we're solving. This is what our ancestors gave us to solve what? This conundrum of language.
Gotcha.
Makes sense.
Gotcha.
And it's called pardes. The term, sometimes spelled capital P, capital R, capital D, capital S, pardes, is an acronym formed from the same initials of the following four approaches. And again, these four approaches are the four elements. They are the four elements. And we'll connect that, like I said, later. Pashat, meaning a surface or straight or literal direct meaning. This is a very base level, and the vast majority of people have an understanding, Nasi, not only of the scriptures, but of the nature of the reality on a very base, straight ahead, straightforward, literal level. In other words,
Over 85% of the people, huh?
it's the vast majority of the people,
Yeah.
99.9%.
Yeah.
They see this reality, well, because I can see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, then that's what it is. I'm not looking for any other explanation.
Right.
The second level is referred to as remez. And again, this corresponds to, we get a hint, like I suspect all of us on this call have had, we get a hint that something is amiss. That something, the explanation that we're getting relative to the nature of reality is not right. We see glitches, we see inconsistencies. All right.
Yeah.
And we begin to see the allegory or the allegoric nature or the hidden nature or the symbolic nature that is right below the surface. This is when, Nasi, we become aware. Become aware that there is a meaning beyond just the literal sense or the simplified explanation that someone has given us in terms of the nature of reality. Everybody with me? The third level is called drash, and it means to inquire or to seek. Seek and ye shall, and it shall be found. Ask and it shall be given. Right?
Right.
You begin to inquire. And this is what is discouraged within the social systems, even familial social system. When you start, everybody, that when some didn't seem right, we would question adults, and usually we would get based out. We would get smacked in the mouth, right? That's something you don't question. You get
Right.
you get set down.
Right.
You get ostracized. You get ostracized. You get
Right.
labeled as crazy. You get labeled as a rebel. You get labeled as a troublemaker. You get
Unbeliever.
you get labeled as somebody that's not right. Why? Because you are questioning the status quo. And that is a no-no in these rigid hierarchical structures that develop, Nasi, without an understanding of the energy
Right.
that is behind the structure, that lies behind the structure. We all clear? So that Daresh level now, bear with me. Bear with me. I lost the, okay, here we go. That Daresh level is when we start to dig a little deeper. Daresh means to thrash or to thresh. And threshing is removing the wheat from what? The shaft. Getting
Right.
down to the kernel. Seeking and inquiring and digging beyond what? The surface level of understanding or the
Right.
surface level of perception. And it is the level of the parable. This is why Yeshua was talking to people and actually he was addressing the people with parables, but he was actually talking to his inner circle. Why do you talk to the people in parables? Because seeing, they got eyes, they can't see. They got ears, but they can't hear. They got a heart, but they have no understanding. So I speak to them in parables so that what? The prophet, the prophecy about them could be made manifest. The fourth level, but not the final level. This is the fourth level, but it's not the final level. It is the soul level. The soul level, we're going to find out, is just the beginning. It is pronounced soul, but it's spelled like the word code, C-O-D-E. But it's not the hard C, it's the soft C, but it looks like code. It is the secret or the occult or the hidden reality beyond the simulated reality. It's the true nature of reality, or it's the beginning. It is the esoteric or the mystical meaning or perception as given through what? Not any mental logic or reasoning, but through inspiration or what? Revelation. But these aspects, we have to understand that these things in our current world, they're looked down upon. When you tell somebody, Nasi, that you have an intuition, that you've had a revelation about something that goes against the norm, you know what they want? Rational, logical proof that you
Right. Right.
that you had an inspiration, that you had a
Absolutely.
revelation. But it'll never
Right.
happen because they're attempting to do what? Fuse two things together
Right.
that are diametrically opposed. They're designed to be like that.
Mhm.
So we understand where we find ourselves, and again, how difficult Gnostic it is through language to even begin to comprehend these things mentally, to begin to comprehend them mentally, and to sort them out. The Hebrew word pardes means an orchard. So this goes back now to the garden and the trees. All right. The Hebrew word pardes is of Persian origin and appears several times in the Bible. Persian is also the source of the word paradise. So it's not the physical aspect. We got to understand now, it's not the physical aspects of an environment or of the reality that makes it a paradise. It is the true it is understanding or being able to perceive the true nature of it, which makes it a paradise. See, we trying to build institutions and again structures, uh, societal or cultural structures that do not correspond with the energetic. Makes sense? Not say
That's exactly what everybody's trying to do.
absolutely, but we have to understand. See, we're without again an understanding of the energetic. So we end up look at the bottom. We end up not trying to be a nation of merchants or a nation of warriors and kings and rulers or priests. We end up being farmers, workers, servants, laborers. This is what avad means. This is why it was put in the garden setting, Nasi. And he looked around, and the environment was a certain way. Why? Because no one was invented yet. No one was made to what? Work till the ground to serve.
Makes sense.
And so we try to carry this idea that was formulated from a lower state of consciousness. We try to carry it forward and build something that is what? High and spiritual. Makes sense.
Wow. Makes sense.
So when we look at the nature of this, we have to understand that the underlying principle is always soul. All right. So we introduced ourselves to this word azoth, and which is called universal medicine, that is for the soul, is the supreme reason and absolute justice. For the mind, look, it is mathematical and practical truth. For the body, it is the quintessence, which is a combination of gold and light. These things will make sense a little bit later. But again, we're looking at the three top levels here, or the three levels. The superior or spiritual world, it is the first matter of the great work, the source of the enthusiasm and activity of the alchemist. That corresponds to the Brahman level, or to the souled understanding of the reality. That is the superior spiritual level. The intermediate or mental world is intelligence and industry, which refer to the second two levels. All right? The intermediate levels. Then the inferior or material level is actually Malkuth, or the kingdom. It is physical labor, that is avad, or what is termed worship. That same word, Nasi, is used in the word till in Genesis, that there was no man to till the ground.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We did not come here to be workers, to be servants, to be laborers, to be slaves, to worship. You all with me?
Yeah.
So that foundation being laid, let's talk about the hidden priests and prophets and the one, the funk, and the unified field. Now, see, we've been singing about this for years. We've been hearing it and dancing to it. But we had no understanding until now as to what our priests and our kings were telling us throughout history. And though the Lord give you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet shall not thy teachers be removed into a corner anymore, but thine eyes shall see thy teachers. We're going to see who they were and who they are. And thine ears shall hear a word behind thee saying, look, this is the way, walk ye in it. When you turn to the right hand and when you turn to the left. See, we had been expecting priests.
Right.
But how are we going to expect priests and we turning everybody into servants?
Wow.
Does it make sense to anybody?
Makes sense.
We are steering everyone to a lower level, but expecting what? Priests and prophets. But like causes always produce what? Like effects. Where attention goes, what happens?
Energy flows.
Energy flows. So if the focus is on being farmers and workers and servants and laborers, and the message that we're getting is avad, work for, toil for,
All for
labor for,
worship.
what? As a slave, as a servant. Well, I mean, that's where your focus and energy is at. But our ancestors have always provided us with individuals, even when we didn't recognize them, that would continually remind us of why we were here. The hidden priests, prophets, and the funk is the unified field. I'm going to prove that these brothers, although they weren't conscious of it, they were getting a intelligence from a higher vibratory field. In physics, a unified field theory, or the UTF, is a type of field theory, listen, that allows all that is usually thought of as fundamental forces and elementary principles, listen to the language they use, Nasik, to be written in terms of a single field. Well, why did he use the word written and not the
Right,
word conceptualized?
right.
Why didn't he use why did they use the word written?
Right.
Because they're trying to what? Keep us isolated within a language program.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to see our brothers was always with us. They was always with us, teaching us this knowledge. We just we hadn't become conscious yet. But if you can see this, this is going to be evidence that you become conscious. It's talking about a unified field theory. Words of George Clinton, theme from the black hole. He took on the persona of a unified field and told us, my name is the one. Some people call me the funk. Then repeated it, said, my name is the one. Some people call me the funk. Now, we might laugh at this. He was talking about a single unified field in terms of music. By the mid 60s, James Brown had developed his signature groove that emphasized the downbeat. Now remember, this thing would have to be what? Turned inside out or upside down.
Mm-hmm.
The heavy emphasis on the first beat of every measure to etch his distinctive sound rather than what? The backbeat typified African American music. Brown often cued his band with the command, what? On the one. And this is what has been missing. We weren't on the one. We were dual. Changing the percussive emphasis accent from the 1, 2, 3, 4 backbeat of traditional soul music to the 1, 2, 3 downbeat. The tail had to become the head, but with an even note syncopated guitar rhythm on quarter notes 2 and 4, featuring a hard driving, repetitive, brassy beat. So, in simple terms, the first beat of every measure was emphasized. That's the one. Boom, beat, 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 boom, beat, beat, instead of the usual. So I want to talk to you about these two brothers, extraordinary individuals. George Clinton is to the far left. I said far right. Sorry. Is to the far left of the picture with the sunglasses and the hat and the long wig on. Another brother I want to talk to you about is Bernie Worrell. And he's the brother here with the floppy hat on right next to George Clinton. You all see him?
Yeah.
All right. Now, we just read that these things are discerned what? Not through logic, but through inspiration and what? Revelation. Right?
Right.
I'm gonna give you a revelation that this brother Bernie Worrell gave to me when he became an ancestor. Now, see, I had a dream one night, and although I was a big fan of Parliament Funkadelic, I couldn't at that point name all of the members. Some members that I knew, but not all of them. And I had a dream where this brother right here, Bernie Worrell, we were in like a room with a piano in it. And all night during that, whatever it was, vision or whatever, he sat me next to him on the piano and taught me about the one. Now I had known about it, but I didn't study it like I'm showing it to you all now. And I knew James Brown would talk about the one. I love James Brown music. I know that George Clinton and his group, Parliament Funkadelic, took it, along with Bootsy Collins, took that theme to another level. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
And the brother sat down in this vision and told me about the one in spiritual terms. Now I didn't recognize, I kind of recognized him, but I couldn't. When I woke up, I was telling my Esau that the brother was a musician. I said, his face is familiar, but I could not identify or find out, even to Google, who it was. But I know he sat me down at that piano and showed me exactly how the one works and what it does spiritually and energetically. And I got up talking to my Isha about this dream that I had because it was really strange. All night, now see, all night this brother talked to me about this. And I got up and I turned my computer on and turned Facebook on to check my Facebook post. And someone had a picture of this brother, Bernie Worrell, that had passed, transitioned the night before.
Wow. Wow.
That's deep.
This happened. This happened. And he was telling me also, and I'm going to go to this video, he was telling me some songs that he had played on some other groups that he had introduced this concept of the one on. All right. And again, I'm not familiar with the music like that, with even who this brother was at that time. But I was like, oh, Bernie Worrell that played keyboards for Parliament Funkadelic. So I began to go and look at some videos because he had told me, and I remember this, he was sitting at the piano, and when he was telling me about this other group, he said, you already know this song. and he played real hard on the piano, played emphasizing the one, and he went on the piano and played that, and then was humming the rest. And I said, "What song is that? What song is that?" He said, "You know it. You know it. I played on that too." I'm getting ready to show you all the song. And watch what he does. He does not, when he hits the downbeat, he doesn't go like this. When he plays it, he's going to go like this. Emphasizing the downbeat, he's going to point upstairs. Watch this, brother.
Quite
The
interesting.
song that I'm talking about is Burning Down the House by the Talking Heads. And I did not know until I had that vision that this brother was playing on with Talking Heads. Now I'm going to show you where he is. Now that's him on the keyboards in the back. That's Bernie. Now I want you all to watch it. Now they're going to feature him because he arranged this on the one. Watch what he does with his hands. Did you see him?
Yeah.
See him point up?
Right.
These are our prophets.
Hey.
These are our prophets. Usually, when you saw James Brown do it, James Brown would go like this and punch down to the ground. And he would step hard. Bernie pointed up. That was in 86. He passed. Spirit taught me about this. This is the only reason I can show it to you. And I looked into it some more. During George Clinton, now listen, during George Clinton's special, that's the brother on the right, the founder of Parliament Funkadelic, and the Holy Grail of Funk on 70s on 7, George talks about the possibility that he and Bootsy Collins were once abducted by aliens in Canada. Now, I want to caution us. When they talk about aliens, NASA has gotten a hold of this, and they want you to think that these are people that are, or beings that are unrelated to us from outer space. It is not. This is why I'm careful not to get into this, because most people are influenced by what the mass media has talked to them. And they always want to talk about Roswell, but you have to understand there is the real and there is counterfeits. These metal objects flying around here, America has made this stuff. What they are talking about in terms of UFOs, we're going to talk about our different subtle bodies, is us flying around fully illuminated. Fully illuminated. This is why when they portrayed our ancestors, they showed them with wings. We were the original supermen and superwomen. And we must understand when we talk about these different bodies, the difference between astral travel and traveling cosmically. I'm going to say it again. It's worth noting. We must understand the difference between astral travel and traveling cosmically. Big difference. And NASA is not going to tell you that because they are leading you in another direction. They are keeping you tied to the physical. You all with me?
Hey,
Yeah.
NASA is based in deception.
They're based in deception,
Period.
in distraction. So George talks about the possibility of he and Bootsy Collins once were abducted by aliens in Canada. Quote, this is George Clinton talking, and you all can listen to the recording yourself. Bootsy and I both, as high as we stayed, we weren't high that particular time. We had just gone over the border into Canada, and we saw a light straight out of the clouds, straight to the ground in daylight. Clinton said. 3 or 4 minutes later, again, right through the trees, the light hit one side of the street and the other side of the street, and the third one, it hit the car that we were in. Now, he goes on, I didn't get the quote because it wasn't in it. He goes on to explain that when the light hit the car, it acted like mercury. It acted like a plasma. So later on, plasma being the fourth state of matter, this is what they saw. He said it beat it up on the car like mercury. This was a spiritual experience that they had. It beat it up on the car like mercury. The plasma, different states of matter, that what we have to understand about our bodies, fully illuminated, that it acts like it appears like fluorescent tubing, it appears like starlight, most of all like lightning. I saw Satan like lightning fall from the heavens to the earth. We're given clues about this. Sly and the Family Stone sang to us, everybody is a star. Was talking about another expression of our energetic nature that is mercury-like, that is like lightning, that is like stars. We'll get into it later. Everybody is a star. This is why George Clinton now came out with the character Star Child. Star Child. And Bootsy Collins wears the glasses with this, that are shaped like stars. Now understand, you got to hear me now. This experience happened after they had recorded these songs. Y'all got to hear me. The experience in Canada was recent, but the songs were written containing the knowledge prior to their experience in Canada. You all with me?
So what we're saying then, that the experience in Canada was a testimony that they had already had, knowledge or made contact with the energetic ancestors.
We're in the cosmic realm.
Right.
In the cosmic realm. This is science. This is science. I'm going to prove it to you all. Again, WOMC in Detroit, they covered this on June 16th, 2011. George Clinton has a long-time obsession with space. Listen, he had a long-time obsession with space. This Saturday, he'll give a lecture on the Afrofuturistic imagination. Listen to that. Afrofuturistic imagination. This is what he was demonstrating. The power of soul and the Afrofuturistic imagination of his science fiction inspired stage shows, costumes, and concept albums. Now they got him lecturing on this. In the meantime, he revealed an interesting story to The Guardian. George Clinton relayed a UFO encounter saying, "You want to know about spaceships? Well, one day, Bootsy Collins and I were in a car. It was 11 in the morning, broad daylight, and we were only a few miles from home. Suddenly, a beam of light from a UFO hit us, and we couldn't see a thing. It felt like only a few moments later when I got to the house. But my daughter said it was late and she was ready for bed. I'm telling you, time disappeared on that journey. We were taken to a weird place." Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Now, I've been a fan of Funkadelic since I heard their first song, Parliament, rather. Their first song, a lot of people might remember, they were the Parliaments, and they were a group like the Temptations. And they had a song called I Just Want to Testify.
Right.
But then, if you looked at the documentary that I sent to you, they said, hey, we can't do this three-piece suit type thing. George Clinton said, I got to be free. I got to be free to express myself. And they came out with this song, Free Your Mind. Now see, this is science. And the tagline was free your mind and your ass will follow. Listen, the kingdom of heaven is within. Y'all hearing this?
Yeah.
Telling our people that the kingdom of heaven is within. Speaking science from the very first song that they came out with and made popular. Keeping us in touch and in rhythm with the true nature of reality. Now, I want to go to a specific line. So they say, open up your funky mind and you can what? Fly. Free your mind and your ass will follow. The kingdom of heaven is within. Then he says something very curious here, Nasik. He says, you are as free as you want to be. Free your mind and your ass will follow. Then he says, well, and this is what stood out to me, this particular line coming up when I was young and listened to this. He said, well, I discovered that this life that was given to me is not really mine. Free your mind and your ass will follow. If it were mine, I would have fun all the time. I'm very disgruntled now. No, now I want a way out. Now I have to find a way. I have to find some way out. Free your mind and your ass will follow. Doesn't that sound like he's searching for what?
Yeah.
True nature of reality?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Next major song called The Mothership Connection, again, where he introduced this character called Star Child. Listen to the science. Well, all right. Star Child, citizens of the universe, recording angels. We have returned to what? Claim the pyramids. Now you got to understand this was written in the 70s before this encounter that he had with this so-called UFO. Partying on the mothership, I am the mothership connection. Listen now, see, getting down in 3D. However, light year grooving. I'm in this three-dimensional box, but my mind is not there. Now, he's going to start talking about the ancestors. Now remember, I'm going to take y'all back to the scriptures that although we've gone through what? We've eaten the bread of adversity and drank the water of affliction, that it's promised that our teachers would what? No longer be removed into a corner, but our eyes would see our teachers. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And thine ears would hear a word behind thee saying what? This is
behind
me. Walk in it.
Here's the way. Walk in it.
Now listen to what George is getting ready to tell y'all. And these teachers are our ancestors. It would be the voice of our ancestors. And so he says, all right, if you hear any noise, ain't nobody but me and the boys getting down.
yeah. I remember that, right.
Then he goes, Star Child here. He's letting y'all know, see, but we would sleep to it.
Yeah, we would sleep.
And he said, put a glide in your stride and a dip in your hip and come on up to the mothership. The mothership connection is your soul, your melanin. But we not gonna get it using the mind that our captors gave to us. We got to get to our soul. Tap back into that. Stop trying to be so prim and proper and intellectual. Free your mind. Or get free from your mind, now see.
Yeah, that's more accurate, right? Get free from your mind.
Now, right, listen to what he says. He says, face it. Even your memory banks have forgotten this funk.
Wow.
Then he goes, mothership connection, home of the P-Funk, the bomb. And when he's talking about the bomb, again, he's talking about a scientific occurrence called the Big Bang. But we haven't understood that. Again, doing it in 3D. Then he says, let me put my sunglasses on.
Is this because I was?
Go ahead.
No, what song is this? Because I got distracted by a phone call. And I'm looking at what song is this?
It's called Mothership Connection, also known as Star Child.
Okay. All right.
Now listen to this, y'all. When you hear your seat rumble, you will hear your conscience grumble. And then he says, hit me. You got to hit the band. You have overcome. For I am here. Now, he ain't talking about himself. He's representing himself as what? The one. The funk.
With the downbeat?
The bridge is swing down, sweet chariot, stop and let me ride. Then he's trying to give you a hint. Are you hip to Easter Island? The Bermuda Triangle? He's saying that ain't no UFO abduction. That is us. That's our ancestors. Ain't nothing but a party. We've been partying here since the beginning, y'all.
Man.
This is our
I was
science.
a kid. I had no idea what the lyrics were saying.
This is our science. The brother, I'm telling you, the brother, when he transitioned, we met on the astral plane, and he told me this science. You've considered this as music you like. This is science. Let me explain it to you. Let me show you what the one is. Musically, energetically, spiritually. This ain't nothing but what we talking about. We talking about it in scientific terms, the unity of consciousness. But our brothers said it simply. It's the one. Get on the one. Connect with your soul. We've been doing this since there was a this. Ain't that no?
I have a quick comment.
Huh?
I have just a quick comment.
Uh-huh.
I noticed when I'm in, especially since I've been performing in Israel,
Uh-huh.
me being a musician, and usually black folks, when we clap on the 2 and 4.
Yes.
But I noticed European or Israelis, even with their songs or our songs, they always clap on this 1 and 3, like it's the dominant 1 and 3. Right. And I always wonder why they doing that.
Hey, I'm on
the wrong side of the
George Clinton told you, Sir Knows devoid of funk. Sir Knows devoid of funk. Listen, we getting ready to allow him to teach. Allow these teachers to teach. Again, Star Child here, citizens of the universe, I bring forth to you the good time on the mothership. Are you hip? Sing, fellas. And he goes, the last bar is swing low, sweet chariot, coming to carry you home. Back to this unity of consciousness. The Mothership Connection is the 4th album by the American funk band Parliament, released December 15th, 1975. Keep this in mind, on Casablanca Records. This concept album of P-Funk mythology. Now remember, this is an allegory again. This is how our ancestors work. It's usually rated as Parliament's best. Mothership Connection was the first P-Funk album to feature Maceo Parker and Fred Wesley, who had left the James Brown's backing band. James Brown, his music, put it on a social, cultural level. George Clinton took the one to the next level, which was cosmic.
Yeah.
Which was cosmic.
Right.
Describing the album, George Clinton said, listen, we put black people in situations nobody ever thought they would be in. like the White House. That's why they came up with Chocolate City. And Chocolate City prefigured and prophesied a black man being in the White House, which turned out to be Barack Obama. Either it happened or it didn't, y'all. I figured another place you wouldn't think of black people would be us, was in outer space, meaning the cosmos. I was a big fan of Star Trek, so we did a thing with a pimp sitting in a spaceship shaped like a Cadillac. And we did all these James Brown type grooves, but with street talking and ghetto slang. Put it in our language. Put it in our language. And as Bakuri was saying, our language is music, and we can decode it in ways that Sir Knows cannot decode it. That's another character. So we're going to do this real quick. Positively identifying Parliament's Sir Knows devoid of funk. This is science, y'all. Now remember, the album came out December 15th, 1975. Listen, the first human genome was sequenced to world acclaim in when? 2001.
Right.
But unraveling the role and relationship between thousands of genes is a tedious task. They had just laid it out in 2001. What he's saying is unraveling the role and relationship of thousands of genes, it took longer. Little by little, we're learning how genes influence development, behavior, and evolution. We know genes are responsible for blue eyes, red hair. Now, we talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah.
Those recessive traits. And now, thanks to the efforts of a team at the University of London, those which code nose shape. This is from an article in 2016, May 20th, entitled These 5 Genes Code Your Nose's Shape, among other things. Answer me a question. How in 1975 did George Clinton identify this aspect of the nose in creating this character, so Sir Nose devoid of funk? Y'all explain that to me.
Can't do it.
The
Only one way. Only one way can explain it. That's he was in communication with the ancestors.
He was connected through this unified. He was connected through this unified field, or a unity of consciousness that we all have connection to. The magnitude of autopomorphic traits in specimens differ in time. The latest specimens of automorphy is unclear. The following is a list of physical traits that distinguish Neanderthals from modern humans. Talking about Sir Nose. However, not all of them distinguish specific Neanderthal populations from various geographic areas, evolutionary periods, or other distinct humans. While the structure of the head and the face are not very far removed from modern humans, there are still quite noticeable differences. Notably, the Neanderthal head is much larger, with a more pronounced facial front. The Neanderthal chin and forehead slope backwards, and the nose region protruded forward more than any modern human. The common shapes of noses are not known, but in general, it was likely more robust and possibly slightly larger than in modern humans. There they go. Sir Nose. and he was always trying to get Sir Nose to dance, and he represented himself as Sir Nose as well. In other words, Nasik, this is the aspects of us that are tending toward what? Thinking that the recessive qualities of lighter skin, lighter eyes, straighter hair, right?
Right.
This mentality that the recessive qualities are what? More desirable.
You remember, Eitai, during the late 60s, that was one of the major problems that swept through the 60s. If you didn't have a high yellow girl,
Yes.
you was really, really messed up. You was out.
Right.
You got to have high yellow.
That's right.
You know, that started way back in the 50s.
That started in the 50s, huh?
Correct. And it goes back now, it goes back to the Willie Lynch letter, now see, where it says, play up this duality. Put young against old, tall against short, light skin against dark skin, curly hair against nappy hair,
Right.
big lips against thin lips. Whatever it is, play up this duality.
You got to play up the duality.
So it creates this swirl of mental activity. But when we would get to the unity of thought, in other words, when we would get on the one and reconnect with the mothership, what would happen? Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah. Because you think all this, all of that Eitai is alluding to was targeted at the young people. Because I remember, you know, when we first got our TV, which is in the 1950s.
Right.
I was born in 1948. Okay, in the 1950s, 54 or something like that, we got our first TV. And that, when I looked at that and I saw all these white people having fun and all that kind of thing, what did I think as a child? I'm talking about 5 years old.
Right.
I wanted to be like them.
You wanted to be like them.
See what I'm saying?
Now see, just like Esau, this dual nature is in us. Esau and Jacob, right?
Right.
Esau and Jacob. So the same way Sir Nose is in us, just like Star Child is in us.
Right. No, that's it.
Y'all
That's
with
no question.
Y'all with now. He was always trying to get Sir Nose to dance. But Sir Nose didn't want to dance. He didn't even want to get wet. And again, in the song Flashlight, where it talks about, he wasn't talking about no flashlight. He's talking about this light in you, that everybody has a certain type of light. All right? Neon light, flashlight, street light, spotlight. Everybody's got a little light under the sun. When we get to this plasma, when we get to talking about this plasma, we're going to start talking about the differences in the what? Representations of your inner light. Everyone has light. You got to let your light shine.
Yeah.
And what is it going to shine on? Now see, it's going to be shining on the funk.
Right.
Shining on this aspect of what? The unity of consciousness, the true nature of reality. The funk is the one. And then he's telling us.
That make all the sense in the world to me.
Listen to what he's saying. Most of all, he need the funk. Help him get the funk. Most of all, he need the funk. Help him get the funk. Most of all, now see, we need this university, this unity of consciousness.
Got it? We have to have it.
This holistic idea. And our teachers, our great teachers, our hidden prophets, have been moving this idea forward.
Well, we were asleep, wasn't we? Good gracious.
Yeah, we ain't. But this is evidence. The good news is we ain't sleep now.
We ain't sleep now, right?
Because our teachers are our teachers speaking to us or not.
Yeah.
It's speaking to us live.
The crying shame of it all is that we didn't hear it when the crate came out.
But understand, bruh, we have to get this. We had to disconnect.
Yeah, we had to disconnect.
We had to disconnect so this work could be done. So we could do what? Wake up and understand. Hey, we see the flaw. Now, see, if we don't see this flaw now,
no, we don't see it now.
It ain't no hope for us. There's no hope for us. After all we done went through, and we're waking up to see the process that we put ourselves through, man, we in a position of power. Because
that's the thing right there, Eitai. That loss of consciousness made us forget that we were the orchestrators of all of this, and as a result, until you wake up, you can never begin to see yourself as being the orchestrator of anything but a slave.
Now, see, don't it make you feel like dancing? That you
I mean, once you get it, once you get it, you really feel empowered, uplifted, you know.
And this is the beginning of our power. So we see the representation of the George Clinton mythology, which is really science of Cernose devoid of funk. The angle of the Neanderthal nose bone projected out with a wide opening, making it a large, prominent facial feature. It could be an influence of the modern human, but it's actually humankind, aquiline nose, prevalent in Neanderthal hotspots of where? Southern Europe and the Near East. How did this man know this if he was not connected to a unified field? And amongst Native Americans whose genetic source has been traced to the Altai Mountains of East Central Asia.
Yeah.
Now, he made a song that he was telling us that the European was an endangered species. And we didn't know what he was telling us and why he was saying this. And it was called the bop gun. The bop gun. Now, we talk about Pat Buchanan making these statements. He said the European man is an endangered species. European man is dying out. By 2050, Russia, the fourth most populous nation in 1950, will be the 15th, behind Egypt and far behind Congo and Tanzania. Far behind Congo and Tanzania. And you're going to see why George Clinton said, can you feel my breath all up and down your neck, moving in on you? He's talking to this European.
Okay.
The only Western nation in the top 14 will be the USA. But most Americans will then trace their ancestry to Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Bop Gun, Endangered Species, is a song by funk band Parliament Funkadelic. The lead track of their 1977 album, Funkin' Teleki versus the Placebo Syndrome. And that placebo syndrome is a heavy, heavy concept. And I teach about this elsewhere in this teaching. It was released as the album's first single. The bop gun is an imaginary weapon that makes whatever it shoots funky, or else it puts it on the one. It was used as a stage prop in Parliament's late 1970s concerts. George Clinton is depicted wielding it on the cover of Funkentelechy versus the Placebo Syndrome album. Now, this is the comic strip. You see the woman with her hands raised up in the background, and she is loudly exclaiming, "One." And Star Child has the bop gun and is shooting Sir Nose with the bop gun. And the lyrics of Bop Gun says, "On guard, defend yourself, moving right on you." He's addressing the endangered species. We're moving right on you. On guard, defend yourself. We understand that the war is genetic. Dr. Franz Kress Wilson said that the roots of racism and white supremacy is a fear of genetic annihilation. In other words, they scared that we're going to shoot them with this genetic bop gun that we got. And he says, "Turn me loose. We shall overcome." Where did you get that funk from, huh? Is he teaching y'all?
Dang.
Turn me on. Brothers, they're spoiling the fun. Let's shoot them with the bop gun. Then he goes on to say, "Let me shoot them with the bop gun." And then they keep saying over and over again, "Endangered species, let me shoot them with the bop gun." Now listen, just one thing. He goes, "When the syndrome is around, on guard. Don't let your guard down. All you have to do is call on the funk." Talking to us. This placebo syndrome, a placebo is what? The simulated reality. It is something, they say that this is the pill, but it ain't nothing but a sugar pill. It's nothing but a copy, a simulated copy of what? The real reality. So what he's telling you is when the syndrome is around, don't let your guard down. All you got to do is what? Call on the funk. Remember, you're part of a unified consciousness. Remember, the source is what, Nasik? One.
Yeah. My point I was going to raise is this is why the effort is so profound in terms of making rationalistic, rationalism, not rationalism, making rationalism so prevalent within the community, because what rationalism does, it actually makes individuals. It makes you individualistic.
That's correct.
It makes you individually separate. So there's no way for unity of consciousness to manifest itself. So we now understanding this, but we cannot allow ourselves to think individualistically. Other than that, we stay in the duality, and the longer we stay in the duality, we prolong this war within us, this duality that's going on within us.
Now, again, that's absolutely correct. Here's what I want to point out, we have to have clearly defined in our mind who we are. Everybody is not on this consciousness level.
That's absolutely clear.
So we must be very clear that there are that there are several different realities that are present and that exist what? Concurrent with one another.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Several types of people. Now, remember, we used to what? Create individuals. Now, see, Jeremiah, before we would form them, what? Before energetically, before
Right.
they came, before they manifested in the womb. We don't have that luxury now. So now we got to be like the pool balls, the billiard balls that was on the table, identifying who we are.
Yeah, that's clear.
There's several different realities going on, several different games being played. We have to recognize. Remember, enlightenment is what? Refers
It's when
to
you
full comprehension
right,
of a situation.
right.
And again, we don't want to categorize people, but your consciousness, your vibrational level, Nasi, power versus
Absolutely.
force, it categorizes you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not to say that that position is rigid or that you can't, or that the idea is not that you can't elevate, but everybody is not elevated.
That's absolutely. That's clear. That's crystal clear.
And we must realize who we are. The example was given to us in the Gospels where the people came, some of the disciples came and said, Jesus, your mother and brothers and sisters out there, they wish to speak to you. And he said, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Who is my... That's the question that we have to ask.
On the clock.
Because we can get distracted and we can erect obstacles in our own path by what? Not having a full comprehension of our situation. Make sense, Amari?
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So again, we are awakening. We're awakening. We're awakening. And we are coming to more and more, Nasi, into this unity of consciousness and understanding the true nature of this reality that we inhabit. We have to know that the things, and I'm saying this without ego at all, and I'm giving full credence to our ancestors, that the things that we are seeing, the things that we are hearing, the things that we are comprehending on this call, somebody try to find me a teaching that is going on now where people are talking about these things on this level.
No, it's on these other levels that we discussed. There's more of than anything.
We look, enlightenment is full comprehension.
Right.
And to know, now see, this is what David was talking about. It's got that K on the end. And you remove the K, it means now. We must have, in order to know and be enlightened, full comprehension of what is going on now. We don't have to wait for anything. our teachers are what? Presenting themselves.
Yeah.
Presenting themselves. And we have to know how to make that connection with them. How to make because it's just a connection with our higher self. It's just a connection with our higher self. Now see, it is unfolded in the concept of the ancestors.
Yeah.
Enfolded, but in the cosmic level, on the cosmic level, you ain't doing nothing but talking to yourself and
Right.
reminding yourself of stuff that you already know. Now, in the
Right.
mind, we used to do that. We used to
Right.
say, I told myself. Didn't we talk to
Mhm.
ourselves like that?
Yeah.
We got to realize that
Well, who is doing the telling?
hmm, hmm,
We have always been in contact with this unity of consciousness, but we have not recognized. We haven't recognized. And
hmm.
like Nasi said, we've been looking to language or logic or rational thought or reasoning. That is a foreign concept to the idea to spiritual things. It is an opposing concept. You just gonna be confused. That is double-minded, Nasi. That is being
That's it. That's
that is being double-minded. You will never connect to this power.
and see a double-minded person is unstable in how many of his ways?
All his
All,
ways. All
All
his
of
ways.
Wait.
all of it.
it.
You know, we got to realize that we are strangers in this world.
That's correct.
Strangers in this world. So we got to call on our ancestors to show us the way out of this world.
Okay. So
So you can be in this world, but not of it.
Right.
so this again, I go back to the experience that I have. I got to give credence again to the ancestors. Look, I'm not this smart, now see.
Yeah, yeah, I'm crystal clear.
But the thing that I've learned how to do is listen. The thing that I've learned how to do is listen and move myself out of the way. Move myself completely out of the way. Because I'm going to try to take this knowledge that is being revealed intuitively and what? Try to fit it into some type of rational model or reasonable understanding or one of these social constructs or belief systems that we've been getting. I'm not doing that.
That's a double mind.
You're not allowing this connection to take place. All of that, like we discussed last time, that's got to die. We got to put that stuff on the cross.
Yeah.
We got to voluntarily lay it down on the altar for what? A perfect sacrifice, a burnt offering. That's how in real time and from a mental aspect you kill this ego. That you complete this alchemical process, that it reaches you by extension. No, we didn't, none of us personally went through this brutal process of slavery and this brutal alchemical process of breaking us down to negredo or niggers, breaking us down to our elemental aspects. We're going to get into alchemy later. None of us went through that personally, but spiritually, energetically, we went through that through extension. So now we have to acknowledge it what? Mentally. And allow that process, that alchemical process, now see, to work on me.
Yeah.
Or else, why did my ancestors go through that? With knowledge of forethought. So what they did would benefit us, but we have to connect to it mentally. We have to connect to it emotionally. We have to connect to it intellectually. We have to connect to it energetically more than anything. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I thought that this would be fun. Nasik said he didn't know what direction I was going. We can't say that.
Yeah.
We can't say
Yeah.
that.
It proved it was one energetic thought, that was involved,
The subject was unity of consciousness. The
Yeah.
subject of unity is unity of consciousness. We've proved in every level, on every level, personally,
Yeah.
that this unity of consciousness is a real thing. We are
It's a real thing.
we are connected through our soul, through melanin, through dark energy, dark matter, the akasha, however you want to call it, azoth, whatever you want to call it. It's real. Is it real?
It's
Yeah.
real.
It's real.
All right, then. So
All right.
tomorrow we get in touch and we talk and then we see what time tomorrow. Okay.
All right. I'm going to end the recording right here.